now call the December 6, 2023 regular Historic Preservation Committee meeting to order. This meeting has been posted in accordance with Nevada Open Meeting Law. All voting members are present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is the initial comment period. Public comment during this portion of the meeting must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. Each person has up to 5 minutes to speak on a specific agenda item. The public may call 702-589-9629 to provide comment. Is there anyone in the audience that needs to or wants to come up for comment? Nope. Seeing there are no comments from the audience or calling in, we will close the initial comment period. Moving on to agenda item 1, approval of the minutes of the October 25th, 2023 meeting.
Make motion to accept the minutes as printed.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Agenda item number 2, for possible action, Certificate of Appropriateness, Application 23-4, a public hearing on a Certificate of Appropriateness application for an addition at 1306 Denver Street pursuant to Section 1127.5.c.3 of the City Code.
Good evening, Commissioners. Michael Mays, Community Development Director. Per the Historic Preservation Ordinance, exterior improvements that can be seen from the street and that require a building permit must receive a Certificate of Appropriateness, or what we refer to as a COA, approval prior to the issuance of the building permit. To receive the COA, the proposed improvements must comply with the Secretary of Interior standards and must apply to the city's adopted design guidelines for that property. Generally, proposed improvements to contributing properties require Historic Preservation Commission review, and non-contributing properties require staff review. The home at 1306 Denver Street is a non-contributing property. The proposed improvements do comply with the Secretary of Interior standards as outlined in the North Wind Resources Report contained in your packet. The proposed improvements do not, however, comply with two aspects of the design guidelines. Number one, that the improvements are not proposed at the rear of the home along the alley, and second, that the improvements do not match the existing home. The reason this application is before you this evening is because while the improvements do not comply with those two aspects of the design guidelines, with respect to the requirement to have the improvements in the alley, in this case, we have a pre-existing condition. This property, as also noted in the design guidelines, already has a driveway and a garage facing Denver Street. And then secondly, the requirement to match the addition to the existing home, which is contained within the design guidelines, actually is in conflict with the Secretary of Interior standards. So for the Commission's review of the Certificate of Appropriateness application this evening, Ms. Mooney with Northwind is here to answer questions on her report that's contained in your packet, as well as the property owner, Mr. Turner. This agenda item also requires a public hearing prior to Commission consideration of the COA. And then I can answer any immediate questions. And I guess before any discussion by the Commission, we want to have the disclosure.
I have to be transparent that our families have a connection, but it's not directly. Our families have a connection, but it's not directly between Grant and I have no financial gain with this.
Thank you.
I want to say the same. I know Lynn, but I don't have any type of financial connection or anything like that.
Does anybody have any questions about the project or questions for Courtney? Maybe I'll start just for some clarification. Where can you just define where the conflict is between the Secretary of Interior standards and the guidelines?
Sure. Courtney Mooney for the record, and good evening, Commission and Chair and staff. So the current guidelines, the current Boulder City guidelines state that the exterior finish of the addition should match the primary residence. However, the Secretary of the Interior Standards, number 9, states that, the new work shall be differentiated from the old, although it should still be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features. So to that end, I worked with the applicant's architect, Alan Stromberg, to kind of tweak a couple of details. They had, like, for example, the rafter tails were the exact, they're decorative and cut exactly like the one on the ones on the home. And so we just kind of minimized that a little bit and then made sure that the brick was not the exact same brick that's on the home, but it's a compatible color. Just some minor details like that so that it would be in compliance with the standards. And the other thing was that, of course, the garage needed to be located in the rear of the property. That doesn't necessarily conflict with the standards. It's more of a the aspect of the current guidelines. However, in reviewing, the application and the site plan, first of all, there's already an existing garage on the front, and second of all, there's really no room to put that type of garage in the backyard, and so that was not necessarily a standards issue.
I've just got a question. If there's a conflict like this between Boulder City Standards and the Secretary of the Interior, is there any kind of, which one takes precedence over? If there's a conflict, which one is, overrules the other one? I mean, are we just locked in a tie and you're just SOL you can't do it either way? I mean, state law trumps city law and stuff like that. Is there something like that? Secretary of Interior's law trumps Boulder City, our guidelines. Is there any kind of a tiebreaker type thing on? I mean, if we got a conflict, we got a conflict, and how do we weigh it?
So, yeah, the ordinance doesn't clarify any way to weigh that. But the commission is working on updating the design guidelines. And so this is identified, and with the proposed design guidelines, we'll make sure that there won't be any conflicts.
Well, but like in tonight's meeting, would the commission be the ones that would decide yea or nay of which one we want to follow? We want to follow the Boulder City guidelines or Secretary of the Interior?
You got arm wrestle.
So,
One way to look at this is the Secretary of Interior guidelines are there to maintain historic preservation and ensure that the integrity of the community is falling within the historic district. If you fall outside those guidelines and you get so many properties that are now out of compliance, it puts the entire historic district at risk. And so what the commission needs to do in considering applications of this nature is determine whether it's in the community's interest or the historic district's best interest in moving forward or denying an application. And those are the considerations that the commission needs to be making as far as which needs to take precedence, the need of the community or the need to protect the historic district.
Thank you. I had a question, and it wasn't, I don't think, in the packet, as far as there's a retaining wall that's between 2 and 5 feet. Do we know, I think it's 5 feet. Do we know where the 5 feet is? Where that's located? Is it going to be in the front of the building, or is it really retaining the driveway?
so part of the existing hill is going to be excavated to accommodate the garage. So that retaining wall will be to the west and to the south, but it will be behind the front yard so that you can have the driveway meet the garage at the grade of the garage. So with the elevations in the packet, you can see how grading is going to be addressed in comparison to the garage. For example, the AV Rev page 3 kind of shows that configuration, as well as with A1 Rev 3, which shows where the proposed retaining wall is going to be compared to the topography of the property. So the intent is to accommodate the garage at below grade so it matches the grade of the existing driveway.
So is that 5 feet, is the top of that 5 feet, 5 feet above ground, or is some of it buried in order to retain?
If you're looking at it from the street, some of that will be below your line of sight.
Okay. And then I had a question about regarding the requested action in our packet. It states we can either approve or deny, but it's, for the approval part, it says that it complies with the Secretary of Interior standards and applicable adopted guidelines. We could still approve it even though it doesn't apply to the adopted design guidelines.
Well, I think that's part of the reason why this is before the commission this evening, is because what staff is acknowledging is that the design guidelines are unclear. I don't think the design guidelines contemplated a pre-existing condition like this, and so it could be interpreted that it does comply with the design guidelines because, as the design guidelines do call out, this property already has a garage and a driveway facing Denver. And certainly from the other aspect, yes, it is in conflict with the Secretary of Interior standards, and so the commission could rule that in the totality and in the, interest of historic preservation and what's beneficial to the entire community, that you wouldn't want the garage to exactly match the rest of the house.
Thank you.
So Courtney, you explained that it sounds like you were in agreement with this in the sense that it's not that big of a deal, to be blunt, and that it will not impose on the whole community or, bring us out of the historic district category. So it sounds like it's something minor.
I mean, it is, Courtney Mooney for the record, it is a large addition. However, I think that the solution they came up with is the best solution for that site. So one of the drawings, a couple of drawings are missing that were submitted by Alan Stromberg at the end, and I apologize. I did send those to Susan, but they may have gotten lost in the shuffle. But those, you can kind of see, if you look at it from the street, because of the grading and the topography of the site, you're only really going to see about the top half of that garage, and there's already an existing driveway there. So I really think that this is the best solution for adding a garage. I mean, the existing garage is no longer a garage.
Right.
It's going to be a studio, but even so, it's what about, the opening is really narrow. So it's probably more narrow than any garages that are built today to accommodate modern vehicles. So I think this is the best solution. And of course, if it was placed in the back, they would probably have to install a dustpan so that you can actually get into the site, the driveway slope. So, and that's a pretty prohibitive cost. So, and then, after working with the architect, I think we came up with pretty good.
So in your
Solution.
opinion and using common sense, it's not really that big of a deal. And I know it's on us to approve or disapprove, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be anything that's going to put the neighbors, out because the garage is the way it is. Also, I'm kind of new to this. It says the home at 1306 is non-contributing resource. So in lieu of that as well.
Correct.
Okay.
This property can no longer contribute to the historic district anyway. Right.
So you did get the situation with the brick discussed, and that's been okayed?
Yes.
Good.
In the packet, you mentioned that the public was notified, folks who within 300 feet.
That is correct.
Oh, that was on November 22nd. This is a point of process or clarification. Do we need to know what the outcome of that public comment was before we make a decision, or
So
how do we?
just like any other public notice requirement, it informs them of the purpose for the hearing. It invites them to the meeting and gives them the methods of providing comments. They can submit them in writing in advance, they could call in, they could be here in person.
Okay,
And we received no public comments.
okay, thank you. Well, I guess, do I have a motion on this action?
Madam
Or-
Chair, if we could just hold the public hearing?
Oh, forgot. Thanks. So we're welcoming public comment during this portion of the agenda item. I'm assuming each person has 5 minutes to speak on this item. The public may call 702-589-9629 to provide comment on this agenda item. Anybody in the audience want to say anything?
So many people calling, they jammed the link.
Oh, that's what it is, yes, yes. That's gotta be it.
Seeing that we have no comments from here in person or on the phone, we are closing this comment period. Moving on, is there a motion on this agenda item?
Motion to approve it?
I think you have to read.
If,
To read that.
yeah.
I move to approve a certificate of appropriateness for 1306 Denver Street based on the findings that the proposed work complies with the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation and the applicable adopted design guidelines.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
You too.
Moving on to agenda item number 3. Update on the implementation of the commission's goals and priorities.
So, Commission, as we do every month, this is an opportunity to provide an update to you regarding the goals that were adopted by the Commission, as well as by the City Council through the approved Historic Preservation Plan. And it's a chance to let you know the progress that we're making on those goals. You see them in high priority, medium priority, and low priority, and the progress to each, and any changes are noted in bold. And so the only change to really highlight this month is the fact that we are planning to bring the non-contributing design guidelines back to the Commission in January.
Anybody have any questions or comments? Moving on to agenda item 4, for possible action, discussion regarding activities for Historic Preservation Day and award for 2024.
So at the last meeting, you had discussed and confirmed following the same notice requirement for the awards program, and so that will be published in the utility mailers in January. You set the day for May 11th, and so really it's an opportunity for the Commission tonight to discuss further what you would like to focus on for Historic Preservation Day in terms of topics and speakers and ideas.
Is there a theme? Did we come up with a theme yet?
No.
Not yet.
Well, I have an idea.
Okay.
The Bureau of Reclamation is doing that, that whole revamping of the front. I think they're gonna have walking trails. So I imagine they'll have some kind of grand opening. Could we piggyback on that? I mean, why do all the work when somebody else is doing it?
Do we know when their grand opening?
I don't know anything about it, no.
Mr. Chairman, could you review some of the activities that the commission has done on this day 2 years, 3 years, 5 years ago? I don't know, I don't know if you were here then or if you have access to that information at the moment.
I do. Page 42 and 43 in your packet is a history of the events of the prior Historic Preservation Days. So in 2023, the focus was on the Railroad Museum. In 2022, there was several activities, including speakers at various buildings in the downtown, Boulder City Company store, filtration plant, LA Department of Water and Power building. In 2021, This was because of COVID. There was not a in-person event, but it was virtual, and a tour of the home of the award winner for HPC Day. In 2020, also, it was a virtual activity online. In 2019, there was an open house at the LA Department of Water and Power building, and tours of the high school, again, the Railroad Museum, tour of the Bureau of Reclamation. In 2018, this is where we conducted tours of the LA Department of Water and Power six-company lodge. If you're familiar with the lodge at the top of the hill.
Yes, I see that. I see that here in the packet. What about, do you happen to recall, were any of these particularly more favorable than others? Did the public respond to any of these more than any others?
The tour of the lodge, since I've been here, has been the most well-attended event.
Okay. Thank you.
I was curious if perhaps, depending on the schedule of two events, the window restoration workshop and the work on the water treatment plant, if those activities could somehow be looped in May.
We are looking at actually the following week in May for the window workshop based on the educators' availability. So that would not line up with this activity, and it would probably be difficult to have a lot of the public be able to participate because it's going to be a hands-on workshop, very focused. The instructor is going to be working with the 12 students, so probably would be disruptive to try to include the public into that. But maybe for 2 years from now, that can be a highlight of Historic Preservation Day.
I was thinking, since the railroad is always a big hit, tying it somehow to something that we do with the railroad. The kids love it, most of the adults. I don't know how that would tie in, but using something historic to.
In case the commission is not aware, the Railroad Museum maintains the original 1931-1930 Boulder Branch Line that was the first thing built in Boulder City. So it does tie into historic preservation, and of course the museum has ongoing preservation efforts. While not all directly connected to Boulder City, it is at the heart of the mission of what the museum does.
I think you have a lot of people that would be interested in that, and they may not go up there maybe for any other reason, but if we highlight it, it'll draw people to that historical aspect.
Yes, we're always
Of
open
trains.
to hosting, and we'll do something connecting into Historic Preservation Day. It's just a matter of what the commission wants us to do. We have no problem with that.
We could even have some activities for kids as well,
Yes.
instead of just bringing in the adults when you bring the kids. And I'm sure the schools would not mind helping to advertise that as well.
Yeah. You kind of tie in the whole
Absolutely.
community.
Some activities
around
for
the
them,
train.
and I think that would be a great idea.
I was just grew up around trains, subways, and trains in Europe, and it always fascinates everybody that I know. Loves trains, and if you have a reason to go out and do something and tie this into it, and they're going to do most of the work.
Well, we had a lot of things at the museum last year, and in my opinion, I thought it was pretty well attended, and you know, there's a I don't know what, nice presentation was given. There's some packets for people to pick up and just wander around, and you know, also the maintenance. You know, most of it took place in the maintenance shed, so a lot of people got to see inside the maintenance shed, which is normally, my understanding, is not normally open to the public. So they got an opportunity to go into that part of the museum there. So I mean, my opinion, I thought it was well attended last year. So I mean, I don't know if we want to incorporate part of that into this upcoming one again. I mean, It's a nice draw.
Never get
You know,
tired of the
museum's
railroad.
It's a cool place. so.
Yeah, and it's compartmentalized up there, and maybe from there, one of the houses that is on the docket to have an award, that could be the next step of it, to go to that house, present the award. I don't know if it's done like that, but, so you're looking at 2 places to visit on that same day.
Are you suggesting the public go to someone's house?
Well, on this one that I saw in here on Birch, I think it was, it looked like that people did attend that, went to the house and looked at it.
There's home
It-
tours at
it-
Christmas.
Michael,
Or-
isn't,
or did
doesn't
Oh,
the Hotel Museum, don't they own one of the houses over on Avenue C? And isn't that open to the public on occasion?
So the house on Avenue C is actually the house that is going to be the subject of the window restoration
Oh, okay.
workshop. And so, yes, they do own it. It's currently vacant. It is the intent of the museum to restore it over, I believe, the next 2 years. And so the window restoration is going to be one of the steps in that process.
And you said that's gonna be the week after historic preservation,
Right.
so would it be possible maybe get with the hotel people, and maybe open that up for people to tour? They can, so they get a chance of, to see the inside of one of those homes. And before, and then maybe the following year, they can go back to it again for historic preservation, and they can see the after.
That'd be kind of cool, too.
I mean, I would think it'd be kind of a freebie thing. It might be interesting, and a lot of people, they drive by all these old small houses, but they've never seen the inside of one,
Right.
the floor plan or anything. So it might be interesting to some people.
And I have a friend that owns one of the homes. She was in the tour this year. If she was up to it, she may open up her home. I know she loves showing her home. So that's something that I could find out and get back with you on if that's, but it's a house that we're actually looking at. And that's the other draw. People want to see inside of a house, and they really went out for the tour in November, and it was really beautiful. So, the railroad and a house, if we could work that.
Going back to my other question about the water plant, the work on that, what's the schedule for that work?
So that has to be completed by May of next year. But that is going to be focused on asbestos abatement, lead-based paint abatement, and brick tuck pointing. So it's really about preservation of the building.
But will anything be going on this May in that building?
No, the work should be completed by then. We're required by the state to
Oh,
get it
May
all.
of '24.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're saying there's a possibility touring that, the water treatment?
Well, in the past, it's always been part of Historic Preservation Day, just kind of an open house. People come and go. It's kind of the 1 or 2 times a year that it's open to the public. What I was kind of getting at is, do we do that again, just as tradition, but could there be more of an emphasis on what was done for preservation with the project? But that's just a matter of kind of getting the information from what was done and pointing out where the work was done, perhaps. I don't know if it'll be really good looking to see repointing or asbestos removal, but anyway. Just wanted to know if that was potentially another property to add to the mix, if we want to.
And as another thought as well, the company store, she's done so much over the time that I know if she was agreeable to it, that would definitely be a draw. They've opened up the roof to where they had the, I guess, what do you call those, when the light shines in?
Skylight.
The skylights, they were boarded up forever, years and years and years, and she has that now open, and it's flooding through. It's just really beautiful, and that's totally different than when they visited last time. So I know that Tara, the owner, would, I can't speak for her, but I could ask her if that's something she would be interested in as well. And
Well-
she is.
And actually, she was a recipient of a historic preservation RDA grant to do that work.
Oh, there you go. So that could be part of the talking points.
Mhm.
And they literally give a self-tour, just like the railroad. It's not much we would have to do. They are already in place to talk to the public. And they're two well-known places as well. I do like the water treatment though, too.
I had a question about, one thing that I don't think Historic Preservation Day has really focused on or reached out to our kids.
That's what the
And
railroad
I
comes in.
guess I'm wondering, with your all's expertise or whoever you work with, is there a way to incorporate the program for kids?
Absolutely, with activities.
Mm-hmm.
What if we did something around planes, trains, and automobiles?
That's pretty cool.
Kids love, people love planes, trains, and automobiles. And we've got an amazing airport. We've got the trains. Maybe we have a big draw of people coming into all the car shows that take place periodically through the year. Maybe there's a way to put all three of those together.
I like that. And Tara has, in the company store, her great-grandfather's car that's in there, and the kids come and they toot the little horn and all that, so that really fits. I like that.
You might also consider reaching out to the Clark County Museum. They have one of the original buildings from the airport that was a black-owned business.
Okay.
And it's a good way to start developing network and resources with our surrounding historic organizations as well.
Nice.
These are great. These are all really great ideas.
Trains and automobiles, I like that.
We could even have each of the schools, with the 4 schools, have not necessarily a booth, but an activity where they each bring, so then they're also advertising at their own school,
I like that.
the events that are, happening and taking place.
So what events do you have in mind that the focus is on historic preservation? And
Well-
what would kids be doing, let's say, for planes, trains, and automobiles? I mean, do you just bring them to the historic airport hangar and show them, or?
We can make that as one of the destinations, absolutely, and have some activities of them building, different types of flying aircraft. And we've got a whole STEM program that we're doing at Garrett next week, just all day long, and building a lot of different things that fly, and they have to rename them and lift and thrust, and should be a really, really fun time. We could incorporate some of those activities as well.
Michael, has the city got a bunch of stuff in the old hangar yet? Or I know they sometimes use it for storage, and I mean, sometimes it's been rented out. I mean, is it currently available, or is it in use?
For the last several years, it's being utilized for storage of public works and utility equipment. But I don't.
Kinda out.
Well, unless the activity's on the outside of the hangar.
I had a question for Christopher. Does the Railroad Museum have already programs for kids?
We're limited by our staffing right now. We don't have any curatorial staff, including an educator, so that falls on me. I have worked as an education curator in the past in my career, and I try to do some programming throughout the year, including with students and STEM-geared stuff. So I have no problem putting that type of material together.
Cool.
I'll also point out, we recently reached an agreement with the Boulder City Dam and Historic Preservation Association to display a replica stagecoach that they had in their collection but couldn't display due to size limitations at the museum. So if we're going for a transportation-based theme, that stagecoach is at the Railroad Museum as
Oh,
well.
nice. That's
Fantastic.
beautiful.
I was wondering why that was there. Like, what did the stagecoach have to do with the railroad?
Lots, actually.
Oh, yeah? Good.
So in the past, they had obviously a schedule of the day's events, and that's what's put out, months before, I guess, leading up to the actual day? What was
The schedule is like how they, so we work on planning it, and then we create a flyer, and other information that goes out to the public.
Right, but I was saying that's already done, basically, we're using the, it's not,
We have to do that.
okay.
This is just
So-
the schedule.
Yeah, I think this and subsequent meetings is the opportunity to kind of assign to each of you areas to research, follow up on, and then report back to the commission at the next meeting. And then narrow down the activities and just have whomever wants to take on that activity to plan that activity. And for the, we would need to get the flyer of the HPC activities in April, which means by May, you would need to firm up the schedule, because we need that material a month in advance so we can get into the utility flyers.
You mean March?
You
If we
mean
need it
March or
before
April? Yeah.
You mean March?
March or
Yes,
April.
Yes.
We know what you meant.
32?
Yeah.
Okay. I could definitely talk to Tara for the company store and Vic and Gloria about opening their home. I could take on that.
Wait, who's home?
I forget the
Is it-
Achievers. They were in the tour this year.
But it wasn't the home on Avenue C.
No,
Oh, okay.
no. Is that where you want to go with, the home on Avenue C?
Well, that was one suggestion, to open up that, the museum's home on Avenue C before the window restoration tour. I mean, the window restoration workshop the following weekend. So there's maybe potentially two homes, or whatever this other home is, you said, another
I don't
home
get the
tour.
address for that. I don't have the address for theirs, but in the one on Avenue C, you have that address or contact, or who owns it?
That is, the museum owns that.
Oh.
Sorry, I'm like writing all this down. So who wants to contact the museum to see if they want to open that up for the weekend before?
I could do that as well. So I got the two houses and Tara,
then
the
Tara?
company store,
Okay.
right? The company
Skylight,
store.
the Skylight restoration example, okay.
Should we pick a theme first to make sure our activities?
I thought we had it. Train, what'd you say?
I don't know, are we doing?
Trains, planes, and automobiles? That sounds, I mean,
So what do the two homes have to do with planes, trains, and automobiles?
I know, right? That would just be part of, well, when do you actually announce the winner of a house? Whoever, as you get,
It's on the schedule too.
We had talked about possibly doing it that day, but we had a deadline of when it needed to be submitted, correct?
In April, you'll select. In April, you're going to select the award winner. And typically, it has been presented at a council meeting, or you could present it at HPC Day. That's up to the commission.
yeah, still doesn't go
March,
with the theme,
actually.
you're right.
Pick
Just for what's,
the award property, according to this,
Okay.
327.
You could do it in April, too, just because usually it's provided in May.
True.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think if we
So
have
that's
people wait
separate.
and the anticipation of who wins, and then everybody's there at the event, might even bring in more people coming and do a lovely presentation instead of presenting it to one person at a meeting. I think it would be a lot more fun and more community-based doing it that way.
How did you receive your award last
At the city council
year? Yeah, well, you definitely want to do that, and, right, that's like tradition, I guess, to do that. But on top of that, you're just saying to bring more people, yeah.
So so if you look at the way I'm interpreting the schedule, city council awards the presentation April 23rd, and Historic Preservation Day is almost a month later in May.
Okay, right.
So it wouldn't be a surprise.
Well, that's based on historic precedent.
Way they have been
Right,
doing it.
but there's no reason why,
Change it, we can.
yeah.
I thought we agreed on the schedule last time with Susan here. No?
Well, again, it's up to you.
Okay. But then so then the city council would announce it after Historic Preservation Day? Or how do we coordinate that?
Yeah,
Versus
I guess
saying-
you can do an announcement at Historic Preservation Day, and then we follow up with the award being given by the council to the recipient at some subsequent city council meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, because that part for us was kind of anticlimactic
Yeah,
at the city council meeting, because it was like
nobody was here.
So,
It seemed like it would be more festive to have them
Yeah,
there at one of
yeah.
the properties, or.
So we need to find out what the date is for the council meeting. I mean, maybe it doesn't matter, since it's anticlimactic. Sorry, city council.
Well, we would hope the city council would be at one of these events, one of the things.
Well, the city council is 4/23, they wouldn't meet again till after,
The 11th,
yeah,
so it'd be like the
5:23.
20th.
That really
something.
would be
Yeah.
anticlimactic then.
So for the clerk's office, how far in advance do you need to get items on the council agenda?
You're looking at a minimum of like 3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
A little bit of time.
But you have flexibility if you announce it at Historic Preservation Day to just bring it before the council at some subsequent meeting, because it'll already be known.
Right. That sounds good.
I personally like that idea.
So basically, were we scratching the homes, or we're going with homes, planes, trains, and automobiles? The homes in front of that.
well, if they're gonna do something at the railroad, and you've got 2 homes, and you're talking about the water treatment plant, that's 4 different sites right there. So you're gonna have a lot of people running all over town right
Right, you want
there,
to kind of
so
limit it to
you-
two.
So each one you add, you've got more places for people to go, and then, how many places do you want to have people driving all around town? I mean, because there is a distance.
many people man each place.
Right.
Yeah, we've only got
Yeah.
so many bodies.
So you're saying narrow it down to 2 or 3?
Why not just one?
And it's worth pointing out that this is Historic Preservation Day, and while traditionally it has centered on houses, because that's what's in the historic district, there's nothing that says it has to be. Boulder City has a lot of historic preservation efforts going on that aren't necessarily focused on the historic district. Whether it's the Railroad Museum, whether it's private owners that are preserving classic vehicles. We have several classic auto shops here in town. Why should their efforts be minimized just because they don't own a home, right? There's a lot of historic preservation going on in the community that's worth highlighting. And that's something the council should consider.
Well, if it was me, I'd stay at the trains all day, so.
So, sounds like the theme is planes, trains, and autos. Do I kind of have an agreement with that?
I like that. It's catchy.
Okay.
I'm biased, but yes.
Okay.
And that you want to incorporate kids more.
Definitely.
And so, given those parameters, what properties do we want to include? And who will contact those property owners?
I can contact the airport and kind of see maybe their footprint and what they have down there, and maybe some older planes that that kind of fit into
Oh,
our
the modern
timeframe.
airport, not the historic airport.
Correct,
Oh,
because there's a lot more there to offer.
Right.
gotcha. Sorry.
No, you're totally fine. And then I will look into activities for students to do around that time, kids to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I will look into the airport.
I think it'll come to no one's surprise that I'll handle the Railroad Museum.
Right, exactly.
Yay, thank you.
So where does that leave the automobiles? Because the only other place that I knew was the company store that has one, but with the conversation of people not moving around too much.
There's a couple auto body shops. There's one on Yucca and I believe one on Industrial that do classic
close.
cars. So it might be worthwhile.
Great to highlight them.
That'd be,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's not necessarily that people might have to go there. You might look and talk about having some classic cars at one of the
Come
locations
Come to the railroad.
that people can look at as well, and maybe the company set up a booth as a couple hours for the event.
Also on Yucca Street, there is that, a dealer there, he sell, was it, Custom Classic Works or something like that, they sell classic cars, most of it looks like from the fifties and sixties, but they might have something else in there, but that's right by the railroad there, so it's just to block up from you guys.
And again, worth pointing
They could
out that
bring
it
it
is
down.
historic preservation. We're just talking about automobiles versus structures.
I like that.
So would you be able to then convince or talk to different car restorers and ask if they can explain the process to kids?
That would be interesting too, absolutely.
Well, I thought that's kind of, we're trying to like incorporate that to kids, so you're gonna have to then convince the owners of these planes, trains, and automobiles that they're gonna be dealing with kids.
Yep.
Right, and then, and if they're comfortable with that, but also, is it safe and all that stuff? I don't know if is this something we have to worry about, or not worry
Well, we
about,
can
but keep
have-
that in mind when it comes to providing city functions for kids,
Families, basically.
If I was an owner of
underage kids.
if I was an owner of a place that does car restoration, I'd be very leery about having kids in there because of chemicals, paints, sharp edges,
Touching the cars.
machinery. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on in a shop that's doing automotive restoration, and
Well, they wouldn't necessarily have to be at the shops, in the shops, if there's activities at the
what he was saying,
airport
bring
or
the
at
And,
the
car-
and that's
site.
why I'm saying
Bring the
bring
car
some of the
down.
cars to a location
And they
and
can
talk
rope it
about
off.
it at the
Yeah.
central
And
location.
then just looking at it.
Right, they could rope it off or something if they had to. Yeah, the only other automobile, like I said, at the company store, but that's far. But, you know, kids climb on that, they don't have a touchy-feely thing, but just bringing it over to the railroad, that keeps it right in that area too. So the only two places to travel would be to the airport and to the railroad museum.
Do you have room to bring cars to your property, automobiles?
Probably not in May, because we're going to be having a lot of construction going on. Let me circle back to that at the next meeting when I have a better idea of what the
research and
construction
see, and-
schedule is going to be.
And we'll see
Yeah.
at the airport too, maybe they have a hangar that they would like to donate the space to have some classic cars there and restoration, that people who have the businesses can set up a booth possibly there.
Very nice.
Great. So let me, just to keep clear, we're not going to do the window workshop, or not the tour of the home on Avenue C,
Yeah, no homes.
nor the other home. I'm still willing to keep the water plant in the mix because it is part of the railroad history. And we have a partner group, the Boulder City History and Arts Foundation. I'm pretty sure that they can assist with making that available to the public if it works out as a destination. So the railroad, the skylight restoration, the company store, is that part of the,
Well, yeah, but we were talking about trying to keep it all in one area.
so take that off the list?
But I think we can
Really?
also, I mean, maybe that we won't have activities there, but it can certainly be part of the planes, trains, and automobiles with the flyer, if
Right.
we have, or a pamphlet, or even maybe a scavenger hunt that, you know, that families can go through and do.
Right,
That would
and I know
extend
that,
past just that day of activities.
exactly, and I know that Tara, she loves showing people the store and the cars, and
Absolutely.
there's a
yeah.
little TV there that they can watch some of the old things that have happened over the years. She's got all kind of photos, so,
And it may even be fun too to have, like small for the younger kids, like a small passport type thing they go to the different locations like you would at the zoo
and
or.
stamp it
They
type
can
thing,
get, yeah, little
Yeah,
stamps
almost
that we
like a
could provide for them.
road
and
rally.
At the end, they could give it to, you know, certain location and get a, I don't want to say prize, but maybe a certain activity in a bag that they can take home
Right.
that, you know, helps to
Little
support
gift bags.
our town
Mm-hmm.
and the history of our town.
I like that. Okay.
Where do you think the announcement for historic preservation, the Historic Preservation Award would be incorporated?
At the railroad.
I like that idea because there's more people there. It's more exciting.
Okay.
And why can't it be both? Give them back the plaque and have them come up to
Go
the
back
city
to
council,
the,
you
yeah, for
know?
for the
Yeah.
photo shoot.
Can we request that of members of the commission? Oh, not the commission, the council.
Yeah, you can certainly award it at HPC Day and then ask for it to be on the agenda as well.
I think she was suggesting that they show up during Historic Preservation Day to present the, oh, no, you weren't?
Just,
No.
just
Oh,
that
okay.
it's
Yeah.
awarded.
I was talking about the award, the plaque.
So instead of awarding the plaque
Do it
by
2
council,
times.
oh, do it
Do it
twice.
Like Michael may do
Okay.
it one time and somebody
Yeah.
else would do it another. You would do it at another event or one of the council commissions.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
I'm sure if we ask, we could at least get 1, 2, 3 of the city council members to come out.
Oh,
And to
absolutely.
present it the original time.
I would think so.
Well, if you do that, then you probably don't need to bring it before the council.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, killing 2 birds with 1 stone.
Does it have to follow open meeting laws and only 2 can show up? Present
Oh,
the
yeah.
award?
You would have one council member be designated to give the award, but you can invite all of them to the event.
Right, sure.
I think that would be brilliant. I think it'd be great. More the merrier. Do you know if we were able to get the QR code on the flyer
Oh,
that's going
yeah.
out in the mailer?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Fantastic.
So are we scratching the Yucca cars and putting the company store car in or both? Try to still get them to come out and bring a car down to the railroad or
I think he
wherever.
was gonna find out if there's room.
You're gonna find if there's room, but we're not scratching that idea.
Yeah, I guess the answer to that is going to depend on how many cars.
Right.
You know, if it's
Question mark on it
half
for-
dozen
for
or
moment.
less, absolutely, we can fit them in at the museum, no problem.
Right.
If you're talking about blocking off a significant area of parking, it's going to be much more complicated because we start construction on the access road in 2 weeks and we're going to lose our lower lot.
Right.
So,
Keep it simple.
Or even have them
Or
at
just
the airport if they're, if there's space
If
available
there's space,
there. I think between now and our next meeting,
We'll
talk
find
to
out.
as many people, research as much as we can, and then come back and get a consensus of what information we gathered.
Okay. And is this a one-day activity or a week-long activity? I kind of lost track.
One day.
One-day activity, okay.
well, they kind of
Historic Preservation
broke it up
Month.
last year. They did the railroad path tour at the Park Service on a Monday. So it was kind of a 2-day event-ish.
Do you have food vendors to make
Gonna
money?
ask that question. Did they do that in the past? No food?
No. What we've done in the past is partnered with Terra, or businesses like Terra, restaurants, coffee shops, to offer on that day
Something.
either like themed foods or drinks. But we've also, when we've had presentations, like formal presentations on Historic Preservation Day, then we provide coffee and donuts. And that's kind of like, if you're going to want to do this as this type of event where everybody shows up at the same time between 8 and 9, and we kind of announce that these are what's going on, this is where people can go, this is where you get your map, your QR code, perhaps, whatever. Maybe you have people, and maybe that's where we present the award, that's where you would have the coffee and donuts,
And who pays for that?
the city.
Okay.
You.
So what does the day's timing look like? Is it start like at 9, 10 and end at 2? Because that's a good time to get them from a couple of places if you had to.
Kind of depends on who and where. I think the next
Or
step.
Next time we'll decide.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, timing will be next.
And what we've done in the past is, and it's not included in this packet, we usually come up with not an itinerary, but like a to-do list with
Okay.
who's in charge of what, who's responsible for, for each step, what's the timeline for completing those steps in doing Historic Preservation Day. So I've usually worked with Susan on that to draft that, and we'll just see if we can do that somehow this year. And it just keeps everybody in line as far as
Focus.
what they need to do, and keeps the schedule kind of moving along. So
Okay.
these are great ideas, and I like the kids' involvement. That's
Yeah.
something
They're-
desperately
I mean,
needed.
It's so cliche, but they are our future, especially here in
Absolutely.
City.
Yeah.
True.
Thank you. Anybody else want to add anything?
So the walkaway, I'm going to talk to Tara.
Okay, so I have the water plant, I got that covered.
Okay.
The railroad, Christopher has that covered. Denise, you have the
Store.
company store. Announcing the Historic Preservation Day, that's all of us. The classic car restoration, is that, you're going to contact that?
I'm doing the airport.
Okay. Who's going to contact the car restoration people? I don't know any of them.
I don't know them either.
I don't know.
Okay, I have the backup
I know
car
there's
at
a couple
Tara's.
That's all. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know anybody.
Well, I know a guy in town who does the classic car thing at like Art in the Park and all that, but that's something totally different.
Club?
Yeah, the car club. Michelle and I forget, Caven. He puts all that together. I could talk to him about it, but I thought you had the historic area in mind more than just a classic car.
Well, I just know that up at that area, right, like by the railroad, there's a dealer there, and that's about all I know. I don't know him, I've never been in there. I've stopped outside the fence and looked at the cars a few times, yeah. Oh, sorry.
So I know Tara does have that car there at her place if we need a car. That car is there, it is classic. But if you're looking for classic cars, I could talk to Daryl Caven and see if he could get a couple of cars out, or were you tying it to the business in the historical?
I think that's a decision for the commission, but, I mean, if we're going to be talking about preservation and promoting preservation, what better way to help our former community members than
businesses.
promoting the work that their business does?
Mm-hmm.
It's really emphasizing, as a car restorer, what are the activities or what is it that they do to restore a car? What's their version of restoration versus full-on?
Car versus that's a regular classic car.
No, they're either fully restoring a vehicle, or they're just, I can't think of the word, keeping it. what's the word?
Restoring it, or just
There's restoration, and then there's just keeping it as is. They don't repaint it, they don't strip it, they just maintain it.
Generally, that's a conservation or.
Thank you. Couldn't think of it.
conservation versus
So is anybody
restoration?
doing conservation work, or is, for the most part, what I see in town at car shows is full-on restoration?
Right, exactly.
And they yank out the original engines and they put in different engines. Some of them restore the engines as well, but,
Well, for the next meeting, I'll talk to Daryl, because he certainly would know those guys.
Maybe he has some ideas
Exactly.
as well that
He would
he's
know those-
brainstorming,
And he
if
deals
only
with,
he would have asked, and now
Exactly.
they have.
so I'll talk to Daryl, and I know he deals a lot with the kids, with the cars and all that, so
Fantastic.
he may know them in that area.
So at least give us
I'll
a
do that.
starting point.
Exactly. And like I said, the fall car is at Tara's company store. That's just a historic car. All right, I'll get with Daryl Caven.
all right.
right.
So for now, we know who's doing what.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So, is there anything we have to do with the award? I think we just know what the schedule is for when the nomination will go out and all of that, so.
Right.
we're-
And we'll bring that back to the commission once we have recipients.
Oh, good.
Do you know if you've gotten any recipients yet? Probably.
Well, no, because
Oh, it hasn't
the-
been announced.
Yeah, it hasn't. I mean, it's on the website, and the link and the QR code is taking people to that when they receive it.
Gotcha. Thank you. All right. Moving on to agenda item number 5. Discussion and update on the status of properties in the historic district or other potentially eligible properties.
So this is going to look familiar to you from last month because there's been nothing new to report.
Let's see. Oh, agenda item number 6 for possible action, approval of meeting calendar for 2024.
So staff is just looking for a motion from the commission to approve the calendar for 2024. You'll note that traditionally, there is not a meeting in December, this being the exception because of the conflicts we had last month. So the calendar is in your packet, and we'd be looking for a motion to approve.
I motion to approve.
Second.
Can you confirm, so, okay, Thanksgiving is the 21st of November, so this will be after Thanksgiving?
Yes.
Okay. No meeting in December, okay. All right. Do I have a second on that motion?
I do.
Oh, thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion approves.
And you need 4 for a quorum, right, correct?
No, only 3 because there's 5 voting members.
No, the November dates, I probably won't be here, but that's way down the road. Who knows what next brings?
All right. Agenda item number 7 for possible action, commission discussion regarding potential agenda items for upcoming Historic Preservation Commission meetings.
And so this is the opportunity for commissioners to suggest agenda items. Obviously, we will have Historic Preservation Day at the meeting in January.
Any other agenda items? Okay. So we now come to the final comment period for the evening. Each person has up to 5 minutes to speak on any topic. The public may call 702-589-9629 to provide comment. There are no comments. We will close the final comment period, and this meeting is adjourned.